So this week we're doing the first ballot on the podcast, and I'm sure you're wondering of all the songs that Prince recorded, why did you choose this? Well, let's get into it. Throwbacks, chapter 1, verse 6. What's good? Welcome or welcome back to Throwbacks, the only place where we get to discuss the unexpected theology of old school hip hop and R&B. I'm your host, Derek J. Murphy, and I'm a pastor, teacher, and writer of the book Throwbacks. And in the book, we do the same thing that we do here. We take a song that means something to us, or from an era that means something to us, and we flip it on its head to add inspiration, value, and motivation to our lives. This week, I got on my beanie, channeling my inner R&B money, the authority of all things R&B. Uh, but today we're going to go all the way back to 1985. Or is it 1990? No, no. We'll just stick with 1985. Yeah. In 1985, 52-year-old William Schroeder becomes the first patient with an artificial heart to actually survive and leave the hospital. 1985. 1985, we witnessed the inaugural WrestleMania, which was held in Madison Square Garden, New York City. And the main event featured a tag team match with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Rowdy Roddy Piper. That was a long time ago, people. 1985. 1985 was the year that Coke decided to change its formula and release New Coke. The response was so overwhelmingly negative that it only lasted for about 3 months. And Coca-Cola had to reverse their plans and put Coca-Cola Classic back on the shelf. If you ever wondered where Coca-Cola Classic came from, that's where it came from, 1985. 1985, I was in kindergarten. And naturally so, I didn't know really anything about the song, but I knew almost everything about the artist, at least so I thought. Today we're talking about Prince, the purple one. See, I got the purple light back on because we're going back to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Prince was a musical prodigy, and he was born to jazz musician. Could play just about anything, and on several of his albums, he actually played and performed everything. Just a musical genius. He rises to meteoric fame in 1984 with the release of his sixth album, Purple Rain, for Warner Brothers, and its accompanying movie in 1984. That was his sixth album, his sixth major release in 1984. Now, you got to know that Prince was not an unknown in the black community, that for R&B lovers, he had already experienced R&B fame with songs like I Want to Be Your Lover from the self-titled album in 1979, Do Me Baby from the Controversy album in 1981, and then, of course, Little Red Corvette in 1999 from his 1999 album in 1982. But after Purple Rain, he solidifies himself as a pop icon and really, arguably, one of the top three acts of the 1980s and maybe of all musical history. And with the release of Purple Rain, a polished pop rock album, he decides to start his own label called Paisley Park. And he puts together this band, a multiracial band called The Family. And he wrote this song called Nothing Compares to You on this album. Now, this song was a B-side song, which if you aren't old enough to know what that means, that back in the day, when albums were released on vinyl or on cassette, you wanted to put your best songs on the A side, on the front of the album. And so your B side would typically have a good lead out song, but those would be your real deep cuts. It was a B side song, like for real. So, like Prince actually admitted once that he wrote the song and it came out like a sneeze. It only took him less than an hour to write it in his bedroom. And it wasn't the high polished pop music that he was riding the wave of at the time. Because in 1985, he was still riding high on Purple Rain. But even though this song was a B-side, even though this song didn't feel like something that Prince thought would work for his own record, it caught the attention of alternative rocker and activist Sinead O'Connor, who covered it in 1990. Now, when she covered the song, her rendition of it made it an international super hit. I can remember flipping through the TV and coming across MTV and VH1. That was back when they actually showed video hits. That's what VH stands for, if you didn't know. And seeing this bald-headed, pale-faced white lady singing this song, no rhythm, just almost as if she is yelling, and the camera is this close to her face. And I'm like, why do y'all like this? What is this? I didn't understand it. Of course, like by the time it's 1990, I am now, 11 years old or so, 10 or 11, depending on what time of year it was. And I didn't understand the power of lyrics at that time, but her emotion and feelings of heartbreak and abandonment come through really loud and clear, especially when you see the video. And this is the song that solidifies her as an international star as well. It is her biggest hit ever. And in the rise of this song, she doesn't shy away from the fact that it was written by Prince. She said that when she heard it, she thought that it was brilliant and knew that she had to cover it. And quiet as it's kept, her manager at the time was Prince's former manager, who was able to, I guess, work a deal. I don't know this for certain, but allegedly, who was able to cover the song by using the rights that have been solidified through the record company. And Prince didn't even release it for her to record and cover, because as many of us really know well, that Prince didn't like his songs being covered. He wanted his music to be his music, and you could be influenced by it, but didn't want his music really being covered. Because the way the music industry worked, that because the record company owns parts of the song, then they have the privilege to determine whether or not other artists can record and make money from that song as well. And when an artist covers a song, it can be overshadowed by the original creator of the song or releaser of the song. To give you a really good example, if you watch the Luther Vandross documentary at the beginning of the year on CNN, they talked about how he began to cover songs, and one of his biggest hits is "A House Is Not a Home," which was a cover of Dionne Warwick. I didn't even know Dionne Warwick sung the song at all. It began as a tribute to her, but it became one of Luther's biggest hits. So his version outshined Dionne Warwick's. And that's exactly what happened here, is that one, Prince never released it as a song for himself. It was never a single. It was not on any of his albums to that point. And the fact that Sinead O'Connor became super famous because of the song, Whenever Prince would sing it in his concerts, people would say, oh, he's singing Sinead O'Connor's song, when he was actually the writer of the song. But that's how the music business works. And I believe that that's part of the impact of the song, that this was a catalyst for Prince's famous protest of the music business and the music industry by changing his name from Prince to that androgynous symbol that we know and love. But as far as the lyrics themselves, it's about lost love and feelings of abandonment. Listen to what he says. He says, it's been 7 hours and 13 days since you took your love away. Now, how many of us have been there? That you could count down to the minute when she left. As Bill Withers said, it ain't no sunshine when she's gone. I could go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I could really do whatever I want. I could see whomever I choose. I could eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing compares to you. Nothing can take away these blues. It's a song full of emotion and loss, and it's relatable because we've all been there. And when Sinead O'Connor sings the song and does the video and she cries the tears, you can feel the emotions of the lyrics. And even in the most stripped down version of the song, you can hear the heartbreak in the music. But if we're going to take this song, how do we go from heartbreak and abandonment to adding value to our life? How do we go from Prince and Sinead O'Connor to a biblical truth? Well, the scripture is Mark 9, verse 20 and 29. And when he was coming to the house, his disciples asked him privately, why could not we cast him out? And Jesus says to them, this kind can come forth by nothing but by prayer and fasting. In this climate where celebrity, popularity, and success are king, people sometimes have to scratch and claw to stand out. There's this urge to compete and compare. As a person who works in ministry, it's no different. When you see people who have effectively built and established their brand or whatever it is that they do, it's easy to become discouraged because you don't seem to measure up to those other people's standards. But let me help you get free today. No matter what you do, God doesn't want you to be the next anything. He wants you to be your best. When it comes to walking in purpose, there's no such thing as comparison or competition. Each of us was uniquely designed to fulfill a certain purpose that no one else can complete. The key is knowing your purpose. Knowing your own purpose frees you from the distraction of competition. What if Joshua in the Bible had tried to lead like Moses? Or what if Solomon tried to reign like David? Could you imagine how ineffective Elisha would have been if he tried to prophesy like Elijah? Matthew 17 and Mark 9 speaks of a man whose son was tormented. Desperate, he takes his boy to some of Jesus' disciples. They did everything that they could think of to help this boy, but were ultimately ineffective. Weren't they students of Jesus? Yes. Didn't Jesus send his disciples out to minister? Yes. So why were they ineffective? Jesus gives us a clue. He said to be successful at this level of ministry requires prayer and fasting. You'll find that verse in what I read earlier in Mark 9 and 29, and also in Matthew 17 and 21. To be sure, He wasn't talking about fasting and praying in the moment, but as a means to prepare before the moment. See, what prayer and fasting does, it aligns you with God's will and purpose. In other words, the closer you get to your Creator, the more likely you are to know your purpose, which will make you effective. You won't waste your time trying to do all the other stuff that you weren't designed to do. So, in my case, if God called me to preach, I don't have to preach like T.D. Jakes because there's already one of those in the world. If God has called me to teach, I don't have to teach like Smith Wigglesworth, or else he would have allowed him to live another 100 years. He wants me to be me, the me that he had in mind before the foundation of the world, the me that he designed for such a time as this. He wants me to maximize what he put on the inside of me. Besides, if I'm the best at being someone else, I'm still just a cheaper knockoff. So let me encourage you as I encourage myself. Let us draw close to God and strive to be effective and productive in God's purpose for us. Remember, in his eyes, nothing compares to you. Nothing compares. I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. Thank you for joining me this week, and I hope that something has been said to encourage you, to inspire you, and to help you be the best that you can be. If you enjoy what you hear, let me invite you to subscribe. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and click that like button. And if you're feeling really, really generous, share this with somebody else to help spread the word about what we're doing here at Throwbacks, because that's what we're all about here. We're about building people. If you're interested in the book, let me invite you to DerekJMurphy.com. That's DerekJMurphy.com. And you can see all things Derek J. Murphy, everything from books to gear to writings and other podcasts. And if you really enjoyed this one, I think you will enjoy most of the content that I have there. And you can even connect with me on my social media, which is at I Am Building People across all platforms. So if you have made it this far, know that God loves you best, and I love you best I can. We'll see you the next time. Peace.